He faced some adversity, but Ryan Maiden pulled off the tire strategy to get a victory at Peoria. Can he go for 2 in a row to build momentum heading into the playoffs? Several drivers are still looking for an open spot, and the drivers above the cut line need to be concerned if they can get a good finish here tonight at Nazareth. And we continue to keep an eye on David Davidson as he fights to get into the top 25 in points. Will we see the Zen Joltis winner drop out of the playoffs, and will someone else take his spot? The biggest stars are going to shine bright on one of the most important races of the season. Tonight, we will determine the 16 drivers moving on into the playoffs for the Elite Cup Series who will have a chance to run for a title. Some have already taken that next step, and some have to throw a Hail Mary to make it into the show. The scene is Nazareth Speedway to determine who is headed on to the playoffs. The Nazareth 400 coming up here on RVN. Hello again, everybody. I'm Colin Denton, and welcome to the 16th race of the Elite Cup Series season. Tonight is a big night as we determine who is moving on to our 16-driver playoff field. Some clinched their way in as of Peoria last race. Some are right on that bubble. They need to make sure they're inside the top 25 with their victories, but they are looking pretty solid, just aren't mathematically clinched in. Then we have the drivers that we have to watch out for. David Davidson being one of those big ones, as he is currently outside the top 25. Even though he has that Zen Joltis win, he is not guaranteed into the playoffs. He has to have a great night tonight in order to make it in. And then we have the open spots. We know that John Arndt is locked in on his points. He has so many points built up that he can't drop out of having one of those open spots. But there's no guarantees on whether we'll have 2 or 3 open spots at the end of this race if we have a repeat winner or a part-time winner. That is why all of these drivers that are right on the cut line are going to be racing for every point possible, because we don't know who is going to be in victory lane at the end of the night. It could be someone also that could be outside of the top 25 even if they get that victory. It could be a wild night on points, victories. No guarantees for some of these drivers that are still looking to get into the playoff field, but they could have an opportunity to earn a title at the end of the night, and that is exactly what they're looking for, as they will fight all the way to the finish line. Heading out of central Illinois, we head to the eastern part of Pennsylvania, and that is where you'll find Nazareth Speedway, 54 miles outside of Philadelphia, 68 away from New York City. This track originally opened in 1910 as a dirt oval. It was paved in 1987, and it is the hometown of the Andretti family, including Mario, Michael, Marco, Jeff, and John in IndyCar and NASCAR ranks, as well as IndyCar driver Sage Karam. Here's a quick little test lap around this just under a mile oval. 3 different corners, including that dog leg on the front stretch. These drivers are going to be fighting for that inside line. That is definitely going to be the valuable track position on this race circuit. Unless you can get a good run on the outside of turn 1. Going down the backstretch, tachometer blinking as you head down into turn 3. And get on the brakes. Once again, want to be on that inside line. It's definitely going to be preferred. And then the start-finish line just ahead of turn 1. Quick little lap turned here at Nazareth. Now we take a look at the part-timer race. Obviously, those standings were mixed up based on how they enter the playoffs. Chris Harley and Kyle Lahl out in front. Eric Van Arsdale makes a hard charge from near the back of the field to get into the top 6, passing up Dwayne Calloway. You can see there's a lot of contenders back here in the field, most notably Connor Mays, who went into the end of the season as the points leader, but he had to start in the back because he didn't have a victory. Chris Harley, though, is going to be the one that ends up taking this race. He's going to be one of the 6 drivers entered into this one, along with Donnie Moore, Shane Borland, Austin Rogers, Kyle Lahl, and Eric Van Arsdale. Dwayne Calloway, as we mentioned, is just on the outside. A great run by Ray Chapman and one of his rare appearances in this top 14, but he's able to make it as well. Connor Mays and Kenny Knox are not going to be entered in this one. And we also take a look at our hot seat driver, William Brock, coming off a mediocre finish at Castle Gorge of 26th place. He gets the runner-up at Peoria. Had a chance at getting that victory, but it got stolen away from Ryan Maiden in the late going as he took that pit strategy. We're going to see if Brock is able to go for the victory tonight. However, he's going to start from a little bit further back in the field, so going to be a little bit of a difficult one for him to get up there. That's going to do it from us here up in the booth. Let's go down trackside and get the starting command for this final race in the regular season.
And now, for the most famous words in motorsports, please welcome your Grand Marshal, President of Hubbs Auto and Truck Supply, Cliff Hubbs.
Drivers, start your engines!
Very good, everybody. Fired up when you're ready. Yep. Command's been given. Yes, everybody.
Several drivers clinched in, several drivers in safe position. Only 2 mathematically eliminated, which means with 4 spots up for grabs, there are still plenty of contenders to get into the playoffs. Let's take a look at our starting grid for the final race of the Elite Cup Series regular season. Starting on the pole, it's Jack Porkins in the number 04 Nikon Ford Fusion. No top 20s in the past 4 races for him. He will start alongside part-timer Donnie Moore in the number 43 Smithfield Ford. 2 top 10s in a row for him. He's qualified for the Amateur Cup Series playoffs. In row number 2, we have Jonathan Rains, who finished 9th at Mirage, and Tyler Markell, who's only put up some average runs at short tracks, but those have been some of his best so far this year. Rounding out the top 5 is Rambo, 5 races outside the top 20 after 3 straight top 10s. And Reese Butcher, the short track master, 4 top 10s in 5 starts. The only finish outside that mark was at Mirage when he stalled on pit lane. In row number 4, one of our point contenders, NASCAR Fan 19, finished top 10 in both short tracks this season, and Cody Hagan, who finished 4th at Mirage. Moving back a row, Jed Kraus finished 6th at Peoria and finished 7th earlier this year at Mirage. And Adam Mundinger, rounding out the top 10, finished 8th at Mirage, and he is clinched into the playoffs. Just outside the top 10 is Nick Smith, who needs a comeback after his Peoria crash, led the most laps in that race, and Kyle Law, one of the playoff contenders in the Amateur Cup Series. In row 7, we have the other JR, last place at Peoria, no top 25s on the short tracks, and the Season 1 champion Rampage, no top 10s on short tracks in 5 starts. In P15, we have Brad Stover, who took a major fall in points over the past few weeks and is one of the worst in average finish on short tracks. Alongside him is Noah Poncer, who had an early exit at Castle Gorge. He finished 12th at Mirage. In row number 9, we have David Davidson. Got that Zen Joltis victory, but is still in danger of falling out of the playoffs, finished 17th at Peoria. And Gerard Oran earned his 3rd top 10 at Peoria, which is still one of the worst on short tracks. And to finalize the top 20, Zachary Fitzwater Sr. finished 8th at Castle Gorge, his 2nd top 10 of the season, and William Brock, the first driver to clinch a playoff spot. This is going to be a very exciting final race of the regular season. 4 spots up for grabs to make the 16-driver field in the playoffs. 68 laps to determine who those 4 drivers will be. As we look through the field, you'll see names like Ryan Maiden, who was able to win last race at Peoria to get his spot. Aiden Shepard looking for a spot in points. He's going to start from row 15. Going to have a little bit of work to do, as well as Bruno De Barros, who starts in row 17. Obviously, these points are going to be mixed up as soon as they take the green flag, and we'll have that chase grid up and running throughout the race to see where those drivers are placed. Looking at the front once again, and we have our pole award winner, Jack Porkins. That makes the 16th different pole winner this season. We had quite a few drivers last year have 2 poles on the year, but so far, no repeats on the pole award, just like we haven't had a repeat winner. The 04 looking for a spot in the playoffs. He's going to try to win it from the pole, just like Shane Borland did in the Amateur Cup race. Coming around the final corner, the green flag flies. Final race of the Elite Cup Series regular season underway. And trouble entering the second corner. It's Aiden Shepard up into the wall. Chris Harley also taken out, but huge implications for Shepard in his hopes for the playoffs. As he went sliding through the infield grass. Pulls away. He has some damage to his race car. There's the 2 of Harley and his damage. They both look like they'll be able to drive away from it and stay in this race, but for Shepard, definitely not how he wanted to start this one. He had the best gap coming into this one, and now he's going to have to fight from the back if he wants to make these playoffs. But Jack Porkins is going to take the caution flag, and it looks like everyone's going to stay out. Let's take a look at what happened here. Riding on board Stuart Gratton, and coming straight off turn number 1. A little bit of contact right there. That sends the 7 to the inside and then slides back up the racetrack into the 2 car, but it looks like he got help from Gratton. 29 already involved in the playoffs. Now he has a little bit more involvement in it. Possibly could take Shepard out of this one. However, this race still has a long ways to go, and it doesn't look like the 7 car is heavily damaged, but does have some that's going to need repairing. Looks like the 99 of Ryan Maiden, last week's winner, who's got his spot guaranteed, also got some contact in that one. But this is going to be huge for Shepard. We'll see how this impacts his points day. Riding on board with the 7 as we head to commercial break. Early caution in this one. Fortunate to say that there was nobody taken out in that accident, but Aiden Shepard is going to be in the back of the field now, trying to work his way up through a lot of traffic. That is going to put him further back in points, and hopefully if we get to green for a little bit longer, we'll be able to see that chase grid and see just how far back he dropped. But the green flag is going to fly once again, and we'll see if we can complete a lap here. So we start now on lap number 6. Porkins out front, Reigns and Moore trailing just behind him. Looking to battle in the mid-pack. There is your chase grid now. So NASCAR Fan 19, a 30-point lead ahead of the cut line. Bruno De Barros ahead, as well as Dale Jr. Fan 8883. Shepard is out at the moment. Davidson, though, still outside of the bubble line. He could make his way in, though. We have to keep that in mind. NASCAR Fan 19 up here in the top 5 with a special one-off paint scheme representing the defending Stanley Cup champions St. Louis Blues, and is trying to see if he can represent that underdog mentality. Obviously, he's not coming from last place, but he is trying to make a late push into the playoffs, and he does pretty solid at these short tracks. 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s. One of those top 5s coming at Mirage earlier this season, ended up in the runner-up spot. Meanwhile, the 76 car of Dale Jr. Fan 8883, he is doing solidly right now, although we see the cut line, it's now tied with Mitchell Mark. We haven't talked about the 76 a ton, and he obviously lost out on a guaranteed spot because David Davidson won the race at Zen Joltis. The 76 finished second, so now he's trying to battle his way in on points, but the 5 car is putting up a fight right now. And a few spots ahead of the 76 is the 12 of Bruno De Barros. He is trapped on the outside line, not good for him as he is just 6 points ahead of the cut line. And now as they run another lap, it looks like the 76 is back in contention. Once again, 2 points ahead of the cut line as he starts to make his way up toward De Barros. Meanwhile, David Davidson's trying to work his way up through some traffic. Just 3 points below the cut line. Just a couple spots for him, and he has plenty at his disposal. Obviously not too far up there, although there goes the 1 car right by him. It's going to put him back another point. Well, it looks he actually gained a point on the cut line. Obviously, the way that these drivers go in and out of positions, it's going to affect the cut lines all over the place, so never quite sure where it's going to end up, but we'll keep an eye on it. Brad Stover He is trying to work his way back into contention. He looked like he was going to be a guaranteed spot, just like John Arndt was, but then he's gone through a huge struggle in these past few weeks. Let's take a look at that struggle. Going all the way back to race number 7, that's when he led the points for the first time, did it a second time at race 10, but then after that, 5 straight finishes outside the top 30. He's dropped all the way back to 19th in points. Now he's trying to fight his way back in. He's going to have a little bit of more work to do, but he is just right there against the cut line. Meanwhile, back up front, Jack Porkins still running away with the race lead. Jonathan Rains, Donnie Moore staying in their spots and unable to catch the 04 car. RPG7 Motorsports already put Stuart Gradden in the playoffs. The other JR is in a must-win situation, and even then, even if he gets that victory, he has to get into the top 25, which is no guarantee, even if he gets that victory. But for Porkins, he is someone that's right against the cut line, and his victory is going to make a little bit of a ripple effect on the rest of the drivers competing for one of the open spots. Jonathan Rains is just trailing him, looking for an opportunity to capitalize on a mistake. Unfortunately, though, the 04 is looking pretty stellar. 77 got a top 10 at Mirage, trying to capitalize on some good short track performance. Mitchell Mark has kind of entered the conversation. You can see he's actually 2 points ahead of the 76 car, and he's making another move to the inside of the 25. Now the 76 is really dropping back, as now Aiden Shepard is back into contention, just 2 points behind Mitchell Mark. Like we said, these points are going to vary all over the place throughout the night. The 5 car trying to make a move on Gradden. Looking to that inside line. Looking back here, here comes Aiden Shepard. He is working his way up the field. Trying to make moves on the inside line. A couple guys over there like Eric Van Arsdale, John Arndt, a couple of veterans. Trying to work that outside line. Unfortunately, though, it's not been the good spot all weekend long. But for the 7, it's going to be quite a comeback story if he's able to make this move. It almost looks like he's about to force the 3-wide situation there into turn 2. He's going to get into line behind Philip Fry. Jack Porkins leading the way through 15.
Letters keep coming in with questions about Denny Hamlin and the number 11 car. Brian Simpkins writes, "Dear FedEx, what does Denny Hamlin do to relax?" It's funny you should ask, Brian. Denny was just saying that he finds a few hours of yard work to be a great way to unwind.
It is still the 04 out front, and Mitchell Mark still on the inside of the cut line with Aiden Shepard 2 points out. Still paying attention to David Davidson, as he is just a couple points out of 25th place. Jet Kraus trying to put up a solid performance here. He's in the 5th position. He's actually within single digits of the cut line, and his season has been up and down. It was noted mostly at the beginning of the season when he was always a top 10 contender or someone that was going to wreck out. That kind of faded out after race number 12 when he got a 20th place finish. And it's been a little up and down since then as well. But obviously he's in the contention spot once again. For David Davidson, he is now 1 point behind the cut line. Did not have good finishes at short tracks earlier this year, including a couple weeks ago. Now 13th on the grid. Looking to make a pass on the 1 car, and now looking at the cut line, he is in. He would have the tiebreaker at the 25th spot, so now he is in, and that pushes Brad Stover. Well, actually, Brad Stover would be on the outside. Now it's Bruno De Barros that's on the cut line, 8 points ahead. Looks like Stover's made up a couple of positions to pass up Mitchell Mark. And now the 11 car really gaining some places. And that's got to be a factor of where everyone else around him in points is running as well. But you can see the 11 car making a move to the inside of the 1. That's also going to play a factor as well, making his own moves. Meanwhile, the 7 car of Aiden Shepard, he has fallen all the way back to the last place once again. He's certainly familiar with that spot considering he was in that accident earlier in the race. But the fact that he was looking like he was gaining positions, now he's dropping back once again. Must have gotten caught on that outside line and now 12 points back of the cut line. Meanwhile, here's a little battle for second place. Donnie Moore trying to catch up to Jonathan Rains and make a pass. The 04 car is really blowing away. We've gotten on a long green flag run ever since that lap 1 accident. Donnie Moore able to put up his first top 5 last week. Got a 3rd place run and a 6th place before that. We mentioned it in the starting grid. 2 top 10s in a row. This could be another great run for the 43 team. Moore already competing in the Amateur Cup Series playoffs coming up. They'll start their postseason at Nashville. Sneaking a look at our hot seat driver, William Brock, and this is not the kind of race that he wanted to be having. He is pretty far back in the field. Thankfully for him, he is clinched into the playoffs as Amethyst Ashley, one of the drivers that's not officially clinched, but looks like they'll be in a safe position based on where everyone else is running in points. She gets to the outside and now going to work her way to the inside as William Brock's still trying to compete. Get as many points as he can. Maybe he'll be able to sneak one out in case something bizarre happens. That's why you keep competing. That's why David Davidson keeps competing, as he is still within the cut line right now. He is tied right there at the 25th spot. And this would be such a comeback for a driver that's been as low as 35th in the points twice. That was at race number 7, Twin Ring, and race number 12 at Knox. His season's been really up and down, and obviously, after that race at Knox, he was able to go out and get that victory at San Joltis. A big run for him, and now trying to fight his way into the playoffs. 55, another driver trying to do the same thing, as he is now inside the top 10. Still 8 points, though, outside of Bruno de Barros. Make that 7, and actually, that's not Stover, that's 7 points behind. That would be the 76 car as he starts to make his way back up. For Stover, he's going to need the 12 car to drop back a few positions and hope that 76 does a little bit as well. Because obviously with Davidson making it in and Porkins taking a spot as well on a victory, that is going to affect the line. Now we're going to see some green flag pit stops. Jack Krause from the 5th spot now going to come down and be the first one, and he'll take a few with him. The other JR, Cody Hagan. They'll be the first takers, and it looks like they're pretty much alone on this one, so front runners coming down early. Maybe trying to play a little strategy to mix it up on Jack Porkins and go for the lead. I imagine we're going to see 4 tires right here. Krause has had finishes of 7th and 17th at the short tracks this season. Could tonight be a first? We're going to see Porkins come down from the lead. He'll still be out front when he comes down. Might see a few stragglers try to play a little strategy. Though we're not seeing anyone drive by him just yet. And there's a few in the back. Looks like he took the leaders with him and crashed in the middle of turn 1. Several cars involved, John Arndt most notably. He'll be the one that stalls on the racetrack. And that's taking place just as the leaders were coming down. Porkins, Moore, Rains, they're going to get their service anyway. They were well on pit lane at the time, so no reason not to get your 4 tires on. And Porkins able to get those on, and he made contact with the inside wall. Don't know if he was looking at his mirror, trying to see what happened in that accident. He just made a little contact with the inside wall that kind of juts out from pit lane, but hopefully that doesn't damage his race car too much, and he should still be in front of the 77 who made a pass on him. So a little bit chaotic here now as some of the guys that didn't have the pit stop before now going to come down and get that service, as those that did get that service, I believe, are going to try to get their lap back. Here come the rest of the drivers that didn't take their service, and Adam Mundinger into the pit lane wall. The 78 also going around. Now another bizarre incident. It's the 97, another driver that's already clinched in. He's going to have problems. That's going to probably drop him out of the race based on that damage. And the 12 car going to take 4 tires and pull away. Aiden Shepard trying to get that open spot. He'll go for 4 tires. Might get a little bit of that damage buffed out. Yeah, it doesn't look like he took too much time on that damage. And tight battle off pit lane. I think Johnny Gardner beat the 12 car off. But ultimately, I think they're still going to be behind the drivers that were already on pit lane at the time. So they are still probably going to experience a little traffic. Let's take a look at what happened in this accident. The 05 and 91 running together, and the 05 kind of gets a turn on the 91. Stuffs himself into the outside wall as a result, and Ryan Maiden plowed into the 05. Kind of took him out for good. And we've seen this incident so many times this weekend in the Amateur Cup race. Drivers getting into turn 1. One is wide, one is shallow. Although this time it's kind of the driver on the outside that took the most damage. As Gerard Irwan just kind of bumper cars off of him, and Stephen Willie, of course, has to be involved in this one because that's just how his season's gone. Austin Rogers also getting some contact. And the 91's just able to pull away even though he has that damage, and then there's the contact with the 99. That's going to really take John Arndt out. Lucky for the 05 car, he is locked into the playoffs on points, hasn't gotten a victory yet. And a close call for Aiden Shepard, who is trying to get one of those open spots, is not clinched in yet. He's going to go wide on that inside grass and stay out of trouble. About midway in this one, we'll see who leads after the break.
Seems like ever since there's been a NASCAR, there's been an Earnhardt racing in it. Times may change. Tradition rolls on.
A reminder to everyone that is not involved in the league already, part-time Truck Series signups are always open throughout the season to anyone that is not a full-timer in any of our 3 series. That link is in the description. Race number 10 will be the first event you attempt to compete in, and that deadline is yet to be set. Looking at the field right now, Chris Harley sitting a lap down, and it looks like he might actually gain that lap back, as the leaders are not exactly at the front of the field. Adam Mundinger and John Arndt, the only 2 that are going to drop out of the race. Both of those drivers already clinched into the playoffs, so not a ton necessary from them tonight in terms of getting points. Obviously, they're not going to get a win, though, and get an extra 3 points in the first round. So as they restart, don't look at the front of the field. Look a little bit further back. The 34 car is the one that's out front. So the driver that took the first pit stop is going to be out in front. And another driver that came with them, the other JR, is going to be in second place. But here comes Jack Porkins. He restarts in 4th, and he is coming. Looking to that inside line, wants to make a move on Nick Smith early on, and he's going to get it in the first lap. Meanwhile, the 98 car looking to the inside of Jet Krause. And he's going to get the spot. Now can he clear him somewhere? Still running side by side through turn 1. And on this inside line, I think the 98's going to have it, although the 34 is still fighting back. But I think this RPG7 Motorsports driver is going to have it. So 98 out in front. And that is the first change of lead during a green flag that we've seen. However, notice that the 98 is not on the chase board. He is not yet inside the top 25 in points. Meanwhile, David Davidson, he was out momentarily. He is back in. Up to the top of the board for him. Jack Porkins and Aiden Shepard tied at the cut line. And Bruno De Barros just 1 point ahead. For him, he is just trying to battle through the back part of this race. He has an average finish on short tracks of 29, and that is his worst track type among all in this league, and this is obviously not the place that he wants to compete for his playoff spot, but going to the inside of his teammate, Amethyst Ashley, he's going to get a few more points to get him ahead of the cut line. Meanwhile, Porkins looking to the inside of Jet Krause. Looks like Nick Smith got back in front of the 04 car, so now he's just getting into third place. At least if he can hold it down, and it looks like he will be able to. Cody Hagan working his way to the inside of Krause as well, so the 34 car dropping back after leading on the restart. We're paying attention to the 04 car. It's going to come down to, does he make it in on points or does he get a victory out of it? And the 18 car kind of stuck in traffic behind Caleb Campbell, who's a lap down. And the 04 going to take a peek to the inside. Taking a little advantage of the cars that were trapped on the tail end of the lead lap. Now getting lapped by the 98. And now the 04 slots in the second place. RPG 7, 1 and 2 on the grid, as we're just about 30 laps from the end of this race. Meanwhile, David Davidson is starting to rack up a few points, as he is now 5 points ahead of 25th place. And everyone that's inside on points right now is within single digits of each other. Aiden Shepard looking like the only one that could really catch them at this point, based on where they're running at least. Here comes Brad Stover trying to get the 64 car another point lost. Now his gap to the cut line is 7. And that's for the 64 as he slides up the racetrack. And now the 11 car going to try to take a look and get a point on him. So the 64 car having a bad run right here just off the restart. Meanwhile, the 04 car could take advantage here as the 98's on the outside line, and he is. 04 going to the inside in the middle of turn 3. And they're going to be side by side at the line. The 98 leads the lap. The 04 sticks the corner. Still on the inside line, and it looks like Porkins going to have it. Campbell getting to the outside line. Slipped up the racetrack, and that's going to open the door wide open for Porkins. And put the 04 back to the lead as he passes up his teammate. We'll see if Nick Smith has something to say about it as well, as he's going to the inside of 98. But now the 04 back at the top, and he goes to the top of the chase grid. Now it's a 4-point gap between the 12 and the 7. Work our way back a little bit, and you can see there's where the 12 car is running. He's outside the top 10 right now. Trying to make a move on Julio Caesar. Might try to track down some of those guys in front of him as they kind of run side by side. The 1 car on the outside line. Donnie Moore kind of forced him to there, and now Julio Caesar going to the inside to him, but now looks like Zachary Fitzwater Sr. is going to try to make a move on the 12 car, although it's going to have to stick, and it doesn't. So an opportunity there for the 12 to start making moves, while the 7 tries to work his way up as well. There's where the bubble position drivers run right now. Several of them inside the top 20. Aiden Shepard outside of it. But obviously that means he has more positions to work with. Mitchell Mark doesn't have that luxury inside the top 20, but still 13 points back. That's going to be a hard gap to overcome if some of these drivers don't start to have problems. Obviously, the 64 is having some problems as he is still stuck on the outside line. And the 12 car is going to start to gain some ground on him. Donnie Moore holding down that inside, and Julio Caesar is going to take advantage as they come into turn 3. There goes the 43, and here comes the 0. Now it's NASCAR Fan 19 on the cut line. Remember, he was about 30 points ahead of the cut line. 3-wide situation here. The 64's teammate Rampage on the inside, and he backs out. I wonder if that was team communications saying, your teammate is running for a playoff spot, don't race him that hard. No need to make a stupid mistake right there, and obviously he's still going to race him hard, trying to get some position, but he's got to make sure that both of those cars make it into the playoffs. The 1 car is in by virtue of his victory at Van Zandt and running third in the points right now. Oh, it looks like he got a little loose in the middle of turn 1, and now the 64 going to take advantage of that once again. Now it's both the 12 and the 64, 2 points ahead of the cut line. Meanwhile, the 04 is looking back at his teammate, the other JR, who slots back in the second place. And obviously, it's going to be better for the 04 to take the victory here, because obviously the 98, he wants to get a win on the season, but he's in such a bad shape points-wise that it doesn't look like he's going to be able to clinch his way into the chase no matter where he finishes tonight. Even if he gets that victory, no guarantees he's going to be in the top 25, and it looks unlikely as the gap between him and that spot is about 37 points. Meanwhile, the 34 car of Jack Krause, he was leading at the restart, and within about 15 laps, he's dropped all the way back to 10th place. Really bad restart for him. Did not have a short run car, and a long run car doesn't look like it's going to help you here. His track position seems to be king, even though passing has occurred. Meanwhile, David Davidson still just 2 points ahead of 25th place. Looking on the on-board of William Bracken, he is one of the drivers that was caught on the tail end of the lead lap at that caution during pit stops, so now he's just trying to hope that they get a caution real quick to make sure he stays on the lead lap and maybe try to contend for a few more spots. Even though his chase berth is guaranteed, he wants to get a few more positions, gain some confidence going into Texas World. 1 point gap for Davidson, 3 point gap for De Barros, both in a couple of different battles. It's the 04 though that's leading the way, and he's taking up one of those spots that we are looking at. And Davidson got a big boost on that lap. He's now 4 points ahead of the cut line for himself at 25th position, as we're now 20 laps to go in this one. It's a battle between teammates for the victory. Nick Smith just behind both of them. Move on back, and you can see just how far back Bruno De Barros is, but he is still 4 points ahead of the cut line. Aiden Shepard wrecking on the first lap definitely made his life a little bit easier, and it probably made the 64's life a little easier as well. Davidson still 4 points ahead, the gap extending in the points battle just a little bit. But for the 11, he's putting together a great run. We mentioned he did not have stellar short track runs earlier in the season, but now he's up here in the top 10, running 7th. It's going to be a great day for him if he's able to make his way into the playoffs with this run. Big gaggle of cars back here. Aiden Shepard involved in this one. He's on the outside line to Philip Fry. And this is just near the tail end of the lead lap. Not necessarily those that are trying to avoid going a lap down, but those that were within that main pack. Coming back to the restart, the point gap continues to grow between the 12 and the 7. Now 7 points between both of them. Moving forward just a little bit, Amethyst Ashley leading one of those charges, and there's a crash off the turn number 1. Dominic Carranza on his lid. And there was a little bit of contact there. Aiden Shepard hit him, and he is up in smoke. And that is going to take the 7 car out of the race now. He must have made contact with the 24 as he was on his roof. And it looks like the 7 car is slowing down. I believe his engine is cut. Carranza still on his roof. Rampage, the 1 car, might have had a part in that one. Looking to see if there's any damage to his race car. And this is going to spawn some pit stops. Not sure exactly what we're going to see here, but man, that was a big, crucial turning point in this playoff hunt, as the 7 car, looking for a spot, was losing ground, but obviously now he is not going to be anywhere close to getting in now, as he's going to drop out of this race. Nick Smith, the first one of our looks to come in. Jack Porkins, Cody Hagan coming in at about the same time. We'll see what Smith does, and he is going for 2 tires. But they're going to stay there a little bit. I think they're trying to make sure they get enough fuel in the tank, but Porkins going to get off of pit lane easily in front. The 98 just behind him. Stover gets in the 3rd place. Davidson in 4th. See how they came out, and Stover, Davidson, both making up 3 spots. Everyone going for 2 tires on that one. Nick Smith going to lose 3 spots. Cody Hagan losing 1. Let's see what happens in this one. And it's another situation right in turn one. One car wide, one car shallow. And it's going to be another case of car on the inside gets turned into the outside wall and another big smash. This one just happens to put Carranza on his hood and keep him there. So we see a lot of cars going around him, but then in a few moments, the 7 car is just going to come along and hit him. You can see how many cars are able to avoid this one. Crazy that the 7 car is going to be the one that doesn't. And you can see it's just a little bit of contact, but obviously in slow-mo it doesn't do it justice, just how hard it hit and just where it did hit. Watching from another angle. And that was just about a head-on shot as you can get. Now, maybe this angle will tell us something in terms of where everyone else went. You can see Noah Ponser really sliding to make sure he goes to the inside line. Oh, Johnny Gardner ran into the outside wall there. Something we didn't see the first time. And you can see Aiden Shepard. He's in the middle line and has no idea where to go. Spotter probably didn't give him enough information to tell him that the 24 is there, and there was the contact he makes. And that is going to send him up into smoke. That would be a big disappointment for the 7 car and the team, as they are looking unlikely to make the playoffs. From onboard Carranza. Really going to be a blindsiding accident. Onboard Rampage. And on board Aiden Shepard. One cut will ruin your race. Jack Borkins leading in the final laps at Nazareth.
The NASCAR Ride-Along program puts you in the action.
What's going on? Kyle's breaking in some new material.
So, the Rhino says, forget it, I'll drive myself. Seriously though, I used to be a grease monkey, but that was the bits. Just what I need, a backseat drummer, right? Come on, Clyde, try to keep up.
NASCAR on ESPN. Come along for the ride.
Thank you, you're beautiful. I'll be at the Laugh Shack till Wednesday.
The moon is shining down on an overcast night. Once we hit the start-finish line, it's going to be 12 laps to go left on the regular season. One potential playoff contender eliminated from competition. That could open up the door for the remaining 2 that are looking to get in on points as Porkins continues to lead and could take one on a victory. Green flag going to fly once again. Now, all those drivers that were trying to get back on the lead lap or at least stay on it, they are going to be back around to the tail end of the lead lap, and they are going to try to build up some positions. But that also means at the same time, open air for Porkins, which is probably the best situation you could have had. Now the 64 and 12, they're running together on the racetrack, and they are next to each other in the points. Both of them double digits over Mitchell Mark. Pay attention to the 55 car, though. He came off of pit lane, and now he's up there in 3rd position. As Porkins continues to try to keep everyone in his rearview mirror. The 98 looking low. Could have a move right here on Porkins. I don't think he has enough firepower. He's not going to make that move here. We are approaching 10 laps to go, and one of the teammates of the leader trying to steal one away, even though it looks like his championship hopes are basically over with. I think at this point, the way that this competition's been going, I think the 04 could still make it, even if he doesn't win this race. But obviously, winning does mean a 3-point bonus in the first round, so he has to go for it. The 11 car of David Davidson, he is in very safe hands right now, 12 points ahead of 25th place as he watches the battle unfold in front of him. We had mentioned Stover having an overall struggle in the past few weeks, but definitely on the short tracks, that is his worst track type. Average finish of 36.5. Mirage, he finished 33rd. Castle Gorge, 40th. And he is trying to compete for a playoff spot here at a short track at Nazareth. And obviously, 14 points out, he is going to have to go for that victory or hope that one of the two drivers in front of him in points has a disaster unfold for them. Because at this point, he is not catching up to them. 8 laps to go, looking from up top. The 04 started to gain a little ground once again. Running single file throughout most of the racetrack. But it looks like the 04 taking control. How about Cody Hagan? He was kind of the source of controversy last race at Peoria. A lot of drivers blaming him for some of the accidents that took place in the early part of the race. Did not get any penalty for it, but obviously the aggression that the drivers thought they saw out of him was not appreciated. Now he might go into the next race and just put together a top 5. And it puts him at the bottom of the chase board as we see it. Only 10 drivers fitting onto this, and he's in the 6th spot below the cut line, but obviously showing that he's put together a good performance to keep him up here in the points battle. Meanwhile, the 64 looking on board him right now, trying to chase down a few drivers. He was inside the top 10 and even the top 5 at times earlier in this race. Doesn't look like that's the case right now, but as long as he can stay where he is and not get involved in any drama, he should be safe. Remember, in last season's playoff contention race at Greenville Pickens, he was also the last driver to get in. Beat Alexander Miller by just 1 or 2 points, and he might be in a similar situation here, maybe not the same gap, but once again might slip into the final position. 5 laps to go at Nazareth. Looks like David Davidson, as long as nothing goes catastrophic, he is also going to make it in by virtue of his victory at Zenjoltis, which is great for him. Running 4th right now would be great if the 3 cars in front of him got out of the way and gave him a few extra bonus points going into this first round. Because obviously he kind of shows the least amount of momentum overall in the season. But a win here would be great for him. However, for Jack Porkins, he would love to cap off his season with a victory heading into the playoffs to make sure that he does have that confidence going for him. The 98, we watch on board him now, trying to track him down. Looking for something that he can take advantage of, but the 04 has been so fast and so perfect throughout this entire race, it's hard to make a move. Looks like he might have slipped there in turn 1, but the 98's kind of in his tire tracks. Looking to the inside. The lane isn't there, but he's definitely lower, closer to the rumble strips, and he's still looking inside. He sees a gap there that they're opening up, but he's got to be able to take that move and be able to stick it, because otherwise you're risking taking a lower entry angle. 2 laps to go. Porkins still out in front. Now it's the 98 up high. He goes too high, and Brad Stover making his way to the inside. What a turn of events this would be if Stover was able to pull off the victory. That would be super interesting for the points battle. Porkins would still be in contention with those other 2 drivers, but Stover would bump his way in if he can get the victory. White flag is out here at Nazareth. At this point, it's going to take a bonsai move from Stover to get to Porkins as he is gaining that lead back. Davidson trying to challenge the 98 for 3rd, but at this point, he's pretty safe. Meanwhile, for Porkins, all he had to do was run well today. Well, he did more than that, getting the pole and maintaining that lead. Even had to fight back a couple times, but this race is going to belong to the 04 car coming out of turn 3. Checkered flag flies to Jack Porkins, and he is in to the Elite Cup Series chase. There were a couple of twists and turns in this race at the end. Not too many surprises, to be honest. Jack Porkins clearly had the dominant car of the night. David Davidson probably did have the surprise in terms of he was not having good performances at the short tracks. but he really delivered in the clutch moment, and he is going to be going to the 16-person playoff field, as well as 2 more open spots. Bruno De Barros and NASCAR Fan 19 had a double-digit gap over the cut line. You can see the 64 car even came to the checkered flag with a rash on his right side. These drivers going for everything they've got, and those 2 are going to advance. Let's see how they finished out the night. Jack Porkins, Brad Stover, the other JR, 2 RPG7 Motorsport drivers in the top 3. Great runs for them. David Davidson performed into 4th place in a great run by Cody Hagan. Coming back from his mistakes from last race, he comes in at the top 5 position. Jet Kraus fought his way up to the top 10. He's going to come up short in terms of making it into the playoffs despite the number of top 10s he's been able to accumulate. Looking at the next 10, Bruno De Barros just outside the top 10. NASCAR Fan 19 also coming in just a couple spots behind him, but both are going to advance. Amethyst Ashley and Julio Caesar did not come into this race clinched into the playoffs, but with those performances tonight, they are going to make it through. Johnny Gardner did not have a good day and was another driver that was not clinched in, but despite the 30th place run, he is also going to make it through. Points leader coming into this race, William Brock's going to end up in 29th. Nearing the back of the field, everyone that was able to get to the start-finish line was able to finish on the lead lap. Disappointments by drivers like Dale Jr. Fan 88-83 looked like he had a chance to get a playoff spot, but fell all the way back to 32nd. Rampage in 33rd. Aiden Shepard ends up crashing out and ends up in the 39th spot. Meanwhile, for Adam Mundinger, Bizarre crashed into the end of the pit lane wall, and John Arndt crashed out during green flag pit stops. They will end up in the back, but fortunately for both of them, they were already locked into the playoffs. Here's what the raw standings at the end of 16 races looks like. The top 10 bathed in gold. William Brock ends up with the points lead over John Arndt with that last place finish. Philip Fry jumps into 3rd place over Rampage. Jake Baskinger stays firm at 5th and Stuart Gradden in 6th. Bruno De Barros all the way up to 7th place, and Jack Porkins to 8th with his victory tonight. Started the race in 16th. The final gap between NASCAR Fan 19 and Brad Stover would be 12 points. Plenty of opportunities for Stover to take back some of those points in the later parts of the season, but he is going to end up on the outside looking in. We also have a few more of our chase competitors here, like Caesar, Mundinger, Ashley, Maiden, and Gardner, some of whom had some bad runs today, but they are still in based on their wins. And of course, the last of our chase drivers who we were following throughout the race, David Davidson, 12 points ahead of 26th place, which is Dominic Carranza now. But Davidson will be a part of the chase as he was able to eclipse that 25th place mark. Here's our final few spots in the standings, with the other JR clearly having the best day out of this group, and a couple of part-timers that did not qualify for this race, Dwayne Calloway and Kenny Knox, on the outside of the top 6 in the part-timer race. Here is your official chase grid going into the first race at Texas World. Now, we came out with 13 different Elite Cup Series winners and 3 on points, which means that the gap at the cut line, which will be reduced down to 12 after 3 races, there's a tie because there's more than 12 drivers that got that victory with a few extra bonus points, but that still leaves John Arndt, Bruno De Barros, and NASCAR Fan 19 fetching for a few more points heading into these next few rounds. Here's the team standings. Ramco Motorsports still leading the way over AMI Incorporated and RPG7 Motorsports, who probably had one of the better days of the groups, even though Stuart Gradden did not finish up in that top 10. And a quick scan of our Rookie of the Year standings. Brad Stover, with his runner-up performance, is able to slide into the lead over Philip Fry and Stuart Gradden. And just a word of note on these team and Rookie of the Year standings, they will not reset because of the playoffs. They will continue to be run on raw points. That is going to do it for this edition of the Elite Cup Series. The regular season is over for both the Elite and Amateur Cup Series, and now we are heading into playoff time. The Truck Series still have to run their final race of the regular season. That will take place at Texas World, which is where the site of our next Elite Cup race will take place, the first playoff race of Season 2. From everyone at NFRN and RVN, my name is Colin Denton. We hope you enjoyed tonight's race, and we will see you all next time.